Hello, and welcome to South Asian Success. This podcast is focused on empowering, engaging, and connecting our community. I'm going to be talking to South Asian leaders who are putting culture at the forefront as they build companies, drive communities, lean into creativity, and build better. We hope you'll enjoy the journeys that we share on this podcast, journeys of individuals who are building success on their own terms with culture at the forefront. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of South Asian Success. I'm your host, Parul Bhandari, and I'm really excited today to talk to someone that I have just recently met, but has really kind of given me a lot to think about as a business owner, and somebody that also is still growing a business and still seeking out ways to not only improve how I work, but how I collaborate with others. And so welcome, Zenab. Thank you for joining me today. Zenab is the owner of ZK Captures, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself and tell everyone about your journey, but welcome.
Thank you so much. This is so exciting. I am honored to be featured today. So thank you. Thank you once again. Yes, my name is Zenab. I am a full-time freelancer, is what I like to call myself. I own and run my freelance business and have been running it full-time for the last almost 6 years now, full-time. So it's been a long time doing what I do. And it's kind of crazy to say that because it feels like I just started doing this full-time like yesterday. But yeah, I specifically work on design projects and photography projects with fellow other business owners, nonprofits, startups, but anyone basically that's in the need of design and creative services, essentially. So that's kind of who my audience is. And I do predominantly branding projects along with website projects, UI, UX, print design, packaging design, kind of anything you can think of that is in the world of creative. That's what I work on. So yeah, I've kind of fallen into the space of working with fellow South Asians just by virtue of also being South Asian and knowing the market so closely. But also, apart from just South Asian communities, I've began working on a bunch of other projects with all sorts of different people. So it's been quite fun for the last 6 years just to see kind of all the assortment of different industries I've worked on, all the different things I've gotten to be a part of. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Wonderful. Well, yeah. And I think it's so amazing to have had a business for 6 years, I have to say. As someone who's I think I'm officially 2 years into my journey as of March, I feel like it's nerve-wracking, it's confusing, but it can also be so rewarding. And so I call it passion-driven work, right? Every day. So you've done some growing, right? It sounds like you had a niche, maybe a little bit of a niche with South Asian focused work, and you were able to broaden out of that niche. And I'm kind of curious, in your path and in your journey, what did you feel like you encountered from the space, from others in your space? Was it collaborative? What was the environment like, I guess, when you started to grow?
Yeah, and I think that's such a great question because I feel like our South Asian community is so unique in the sense that we have talent across all industries. Across anything you can think of, we have talent. Now, naturally, there's certain things and certain career paths that we think of when we think South Asians, and creative work, I will say, is not one of them. But I think it's common to find South Asian excellence everywhere. And so I think we harbor a lot of desire to be the best we can be in whatever industry we are in. I think it's just part of the South Asian drive for success, is just that drive to be the best you can be. Now, the issue that I ran into in the creative community, and honestly, it wasn't that big of an issue when I first started. In fact, I felt when I initially started to do this full time, I started among COVID. So I actually felt like the space was actually very welcoming, and it wasn't as closed off and tight knit as it is now. I think everyone was more willing to be more collaborative and be more in tune with the community because we all lacked community. So we wanted to find it. So we were open to kind of letting people in, and people that you might not be communicating with all the time. You were online more often, you were relying on social media for communication, whereas now that's not necessarily the case. Versus I think when I initially started, there was that feeling of everyone, we're all in this together type energy. So that's what actually made a really nice atmosphere to start, because I really feel like it allowed me to grow. It allowed me to kind of flourish in that space because I met a lot of people. I met so many people in the span of 2 years, especially that early stages in my freelancing journey. Met a lot of people and got to work on a lot of things. I wish I didn't do this sometimes, but I'm kind of glad I did. But I said yes to everything. Every opportunity that came my way, big, small, I was like, sure, sure, sure. And I think it allowed me to kind of grow beyond what I would have imagined. But I mean, sometimes I'm like, damn, I wish I really took a break. But hey, that's just every business owner. But yes, I do feel, to answer your question, I do feel like now, and especially I've noticed this a lot in the last couple of years, and hence my pivot, is I do think there's a little bit of scarcity mindset around success. And what does that look like, and how many people can be successful, and who can be successful, and what does that look like? And I think especially in spaces in which the South Asian community is yet to make a mark, especially creative work, for example, where it's a space that, yes, we have South Asian excellence in it, but it's not necessarily a space that you think of when you think of South Asian excellence. So I think because of that, there's the idea that there's finite amount of success because it's an industry that's so niche. There's a finite amount of people that can be successful versus other industries that a lot of South Asians are in. I feel like they don't have this issue. Like medical, for example, like my husband's a medical student. Now, there's so many Desis just in his class. So I feel like they don't have this problem because they know that no matter what, there's room for success for all of them. Versus I feel like with South Asians and creative careers, I think because of the fact that we ourselves know we're doing something against the grain, we tell ourselves that if they're getting an opportunity, that's taking away from ours. And I had to catch myself, and I really, really did a lot of work to make sure that I didn't feel this way. Like initial stages, it was hard because I think naturally, again, it's just things that you're taught as a South Asian. But I did have to make a lot of effort to kind of avoid making myself feel like other South Asians in the community were competition. And it's still a work in progress today. Like it's still stuff I catch myself doing on the day to day. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like I need to talk myself out of it. And I'm like, this is community. And if we actually work together, there's so much we can achieve, but we just have to get out of that mindset.
I know. And it's interesting because as you were talking, I was thinking about like, I think it's that feeling comes from our community, like parents and aunties and uncles, always like comparing, like my son makes this much money and is a doctor, and oh, my daughter is this and this and this. And I think we grew up in that space. So I'm sure that some of it is like the nurturing that we got has almost like put us into that mindset, whether we want to be or not. But then I think there's also, like you said, like you look into a space and you say, oh, I don't see a lot of South Asians in this space. So you have to protect it almost, right? And business owner, what I have to say is like the biggest help I've gotten is from other consultants and other people doing the same things I've been doing. Like authors, obviously writing children's books. I have no clue what I'm doing half the time. And I just like literally speak to other authors and they give me wonderful ideas and I'm able to go and create something new. So I think we have to shift that focus, right? So like, I think you would agree. How do you, I guess when you're advising your clients, so I know your clients are broad now, but you obviously have a lens on the South Asian community and you're going to be creating something for them, right? And you sort of notice that they have that limiting ideal as well, right? They have this scarcity mindset about whatever it is that they're seeking out to do. What are some ways that you have kind of learned along the way, or that you might advise somebody that you work with on how to overcome that?
Yeah, I think it's an important thing to be noted, obviously, is that comparison and this idea of that mindset, that scarcity mindset, creates a lot of noise and actually like muddies the whole business, especially the foundational elements that I'm helping a lot of my clients' brands create. It makes it a lot harder to focus on what matters when you start thinking about others. So I like beyond just an initial conversation of, hey, who are your competitors? Hey, who else is in the space that you're in? I don't really dive into other brands that often in my creative process. I know a lot of people do that. They do a lot of looking at what's the the market look like and what do other brands look like in the market. And I've just found that, especially with South Asian brands specifically, the more we do this, the more it hinders the creative process because it almost takes away from the sense of individuality that my clients' brands come in with, and it makes them feel like they need to emulate a certain thing or look a certain way or act a certain way because their audience or their target or their competitors, I should say, they're looking and acting a certain way. So I think minimal, like doing a little bit obviously is important, but doing minimal amount of like looking outward and looking more inward and really focusing on, okay, what's our why? What's our like unique factor? What makes us us? And what do we have that brings us differentiation beyond just the visuals is really what I kind of hone in on. And that's what we kind of try to capitalize when we're building out the branding, because ultimately that matters more than what everyone else is doing. And especially I've noticed that for my South Asian clients is like really focusing inward and not looking too much outside. Again, I keep saying that it's important to still do that. Like looking at your audience, looking at what else is out there is important. But I think specifically, especially for the creative process, I just find that it's better to just focus on yourself and focus on what makes you unique and then go from there.
I love that. That's such a good, I mean, that's a great piece of advice for anyone. And I actually feel that, yes, if you are able to really hone in on your own kind of vision and ethos, it's going to serve you. When you work with a professional like yourself, you can also get insight on, hey, what am I missing from like a business standpoint that I should be considering? Or what's,
Mm-hmm.
best practice? Those I think are probably really important to bring in, right? That you might want to make sure that, hey, have this, but not as a comparison, more as a way to enhance, right? And build on your vision. I love that. Okay, so you are a business owner and you also mentioned sometimes it is hard to take a break. And I think this is true for many business owners. I literally was on another recording just before this talking about how I was on vacation recently and I didn't fully get ahead of my work. So every night I had to do a little bit of work and I really just wanted to like read a book or sleep and be completely, able to shut down. But that's sometimes difficult. What are some of the strategies that you employ now that you're 6 years in? What are things that we can learn about trying to take time for yourself, turning it off, right? What are things that you do
Yeah. Oh my
or,
gosh.
or try to do?
Yeah, that's what to say. Thank you for making that note because let's be real, I'm not very successful half the time. I honestly think finding time, and especially with running a business, it's so hard to implement anything to step away that I've just found myself in a position now where I almost have to force myself to. And I know that sounds toxic, but let me explain. What I usually do now is I try to kind of make it so I've noticed about myself is I really like to schedule, and I'm just a little bit of type A in that sense where I like adding things to my calendar and I like having like things that I have going on. So I've noticed that about myself. So I've started to kind of go to scheduled gym classes rather than just going to the gym whenever and like setting myself telling myself I need to go. I just sign up for a class. It keeps me accountable. It holds me to like a time on my calendar where I'm like, I have to be there. And I schedule it out like in a month, like a month in advance. So like for June, I have already, like for May, for instance, I have everything already scheduled out. So that in my brain, I almost like because it's scheduled out and it's on my calendar, I can't like, not go. Like I have to go. I treat it almost like I treat a client meeting. It's dumb. But I do the same thing with like friend hangouts or like movies. Or if I'm doing anything, I try to hold myself accountable. Because I think what I've noticed about myself is if I don't do that, then I tend to be like, this client thing takes precedent. Let me do that instead. Or this deadline takes precedent. Let me do that instead. So I think almost treating free time as something to schedule in my calendar has really helped me over the last couple years. Make sure that I take some time out for doing things with my friends, doing things with my, with people around me. And I also have kind of made accountability partners as well. I think that's helped a lot. Friends who are also in the same space, also creatives in the same space that are doing similar work as I do. We try to hold each other in check. I think because we understand each other better than most people do, because we know the industries that we're in and the type of work we're working on. It helps to have a couple people that'll be like, hey, why are you on your computer working at 11 p.m.? Please turn that off. And they like, she'll message me, he'll message me and just keep me in check. And I think that's really helpful because I think having someone that also understands the kind of work you're doing and gets it beyond just like a friendly check-in is really helpful. So I think those are a couple of things that have really helped me so far, especially in the last couple of years, to kind of make sure that I'm stepping away as much as I can possibly.
I love it. Yeah, like time blocking is so important. And I love accountability partners because I think as a business owner, you're in a solo job. So there aren't people to hold you accountable at times where if you don't have that built-in system, it sounds like you do, that it can be challenging. And I will say my accountability partners tend to be like my kids because they need, but it can lead to me like working late at night or doing things to the alternative because my hours get fixed. So it's nice to hear some of the strategies. And I like that because I don't know, I think it can feel overwhelming. And then I think in this world of like social media too, going kind of tying a little bit back to the previous conversation, it's not just as a business owner about, you when you feel like you're going to turn it off, you also feel like you're falling behind, right? There's this feeling I cannot fall behind. And I think it is hard to think about the balance, right? The balance of who you are. The better you balance, the better you're going to be able to do your job. So you've talked about like having accountability partners, right? That's a great way to like build a community around your business or build a community around the work that supports you. What are some other ways that you think sort of community can play a role in supporting business owners from either feeling overwhelmed, feeling imposter syndrome, scarcity mindset, whatever we're going to call it, right? How have you seen that play out?
Yeah, I think that I think we live in a wonderful world where we have social media at our discretion, and it's being used today more than it's ever been used to run businesses and connect with others. So I do think that it's kind of a double-edged sword, but honestly, it's like where you see a lot of this like scarcity mindset and stuff come from is honestly where you have to go to kind of combat it. So I think social media is a little bit of a beast in that sense, but I believe through and through that if you really kind of put in your heart and put in like a lot of work to kind of connect with people and meet people, there is so much opportunity out there and there's so much that you can learn from one another when you connect. And there's so many opportunities that I've kind of gotten, especially in the last couple of years, purely by just connecting with others online and just, introducing myself, letting them know who I am, letting them know what the kind of work I do. I think South Asians also, along with, of course, all the other ways we brought up, we also tend to be worried a little bit about how other people will perceive us. So we're scared often when it comes to introducing ourselves to strangers on the internet. So it took me a long time to tell myself that this is completely normal. Like you have to, it has to be normal because there's not going to be opportunities that come to you in a silver platter unless you put yourself out there and talk to people that you might be scared to talk to. It's still important to do so because otherwise you're not going to get those opportunities. So I think it's important to connect with others online, but also just don't be shy to actually send a message, send a DM, send them, a collaboration request. Like do something beyond just following. Because I think in this day and age, a simple follow is not suffice. Like we all follow too many people at this point to even like remember who we're following. So I think to make your mark, you really have to kind of put in a little effort that goes beyond just like a simple follow and connection request like that. I think emails, text messages, DMs, I think they all hold a lot of power. And especially in the creative community, I've found that 9 times out of 10 when people get work done, it's through referrals, and 9 times out of 10 those referrals are through word of mouth. And very rarely these days do people kind of look on the internet to find a creative. Like often they're asking their friends. They're asking someone else that went through a similar situation, hey, who did you work with? And so honestly, if you don't put yourself out there, then often you won't be able to insert yourself in that bubble. So I think really finding a way to get out of that shell that I think we all put ourselves in initially is really important to find those opportunities and connect with others.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. I have a coach and he was like, you need to reach out to 5 people every week, 5 people you don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I was like, that's a lot. I'm going to start with 1 or 2. But then I started to realize I was sometimes doing it inadvertently with a purpose. Like, obviously some kind of a question I had or something I found interesting that they wrote or did. So you don't have to feel like you're just doing it blindly and outreach. You can actually say to someone, hey, I really love this, this piece that you wrote or this, whatever. You can compliment them on something or you can find some kind of commonality and it makes it feel a little bit less stressful to do that outreach. And I think many of us, if you are trying to grow a business, you have to, sometimes these tools like social media are your best tools. And the more you grow that community, your own community, the more you grow your own following back, you kind of create that that bigger potential business impact as well, right? So it's like an interesting thing. I don't know about you, but I also put some limits on my consumption because I do think there's some sides of it that I'm like, I know I need it for the business. I know I need it for some kind of fun time consumption, but like I'm doing this app right now called Step In, which is like you have to walk
Mhm.
social media time. So do you do anything like that? Do you like limit yourselves as yourself, or do you feel like I think some people have like a better handle on it. So I'm kind of curious where you fall.
Yeah, I am also on the opposite side of the spectrum where I tend to have to tell myself to go online
Well,
more. Like I think because I'm so like deadlines, clients, work, what is
yeah.
for dinner, what's my husband doing, what like I'm so like caught up in that world that I almost find myself chronically offline half the time when it comes to my business. Like what I go online, it's half the times I'm like online on my personal account, just following up with my friends, seeing what they're up to, like doing more social media casually than I am professionally. So honestly, I actually have to tell myself like at least like once or twice a day to interact with people on my professional account and like communicate with people on my professional account. So yes, but on the flip side, I'm honestly giving myself minimum times to like be online because otherwise I tend to like I think because I like have gotten to the point now where I've have a lovely network of people that I'm working with and a network of people that, you know, we've all kind of started referring each other. So I have such fun clients that I could get to work with on the day to day that I'm almost like in go mode and offline so much that I have to be cognizant about, you know, like you said, like if you're not online, then opportunities, you never know like what you might miss. You never know who you might not be able to talk to. So I think it goes both ways. Yes, I think that you have to limit it, but then also you also have to, if you're like me, you have to remind yourself to do it. So I'm like on that side of the coin when it comes to social media use, at least.
Schedule your time well, it's like, I feel like they say, like, if you're a business owner, you should spend like a couple hours every week on your business, right?
Yes, exactly.
Maybe a day if you have it, but a couple hours every week on your business. So maybe that's like the focus, right? Is like, okay, I'm going to make this business time and do a little. I know that's really interesting. I think it's great, like, to hear your journey and your advice for folks. I'm curious. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question, and then I'm going to ask you like sort of the flip side. One is, did you like what was the challenging period for you? Was there a challenging period, right? Because obviously you came in, you said during COVID when it was maybe a little bit like easier get into the field that you were in and people needed some, sort of virtual support, or they were building things online or whatever. Did you ever hit any points that you were like, oh, this is hard and I need to now maybe change something, reinvent, rethink my business?
Yeah, I think it's been less of a specific period that has been challenging and more of every period has come with its own challenges. I think initially when I entered, what was nice and back to that whole scarcity mindset and the community aspect is when I initially started freelancing full time, there was a lot of demand and there was limited supply. So I was one of the only freelancers in the space, and I really made my mark and really capitalized on that. And I'm really thankful for the fact that I was able to do that because I think I have made my mark in the community, and I have people that still refer to me and my services today, and I'm so thankful for that. But I think I was able to kind of capitalize on that lack of resources that our community had initially, really like people that look like them that offered creative services. I think that, and also we're from the States. I think the issue is that people are out there, but they're abroad. But then there's still a little bit of a gap in communication. There's a gap in understanding when it's someone abroad working with you versus someone in the States. So there was really a need for in-States creative services, someone who understands a creative eye, can do the technical work and understand the South Asian community.
Yeah.
So I checked all those boxes and I was able to really capitalize on that. So I got so many different opportunities because of that. But what was the challenge when I initially started is there was still a stigma that still exists, but it's getting better now. But the stigma was that creative services don't need to be that expensive.
Right.
So I was probably charging a fraction of what I charge now when I first started. And that's every freelancer. Like every freelancer will tell you they've started at pennies and then they kind of built their services up to what they currently have today. And that holds true to myself as well. Like I was charging very limited for the work that I was doing, and I was working probably more hours than I'm working today. But I think when you're initially starting in the space, that is kind of the price you pay. Like that's the price of, that's the work, that's the initial kind of drive you have to kind of build that portfolio, build your name, and get out the door. So I did it, and I do think that was a tough time in the sense that I wasn't getting paid. I didn't feel like fairly for what I was doing, but I was happily taking the opportunities because I was just excited to have them and work with so many different people. And that was kind of the original couple years, the first couple years of starting. That was kind of what it was like. It was a lot of like cheaper work, but a lot of opportunities because there wasn't that many people out there. Now, fast forward to now, and that's something that I've spoken to you before about, is the whole idea of like why I've pivoted now to not just working with South Asian people, which is still obviously my bread and butter, but and now working with all sorts of different people, is I've just found that since then, there obviously has been a lot more talent that's surfaced in the community, which is amazing. And I think, and I'm a big fan of half of these other people that are in the community that are doing similar work as me. And I think they're all doing phenomenal. And I think that's amazing, right? On one hand, that's amazing because that means that there's more opportunities. The more people that are there, that means that there's more people demanding it. So it's a great thing at its core, but that does mean that the opportunities that were once shared between like 2 people are now shared among 12, 15 people. So instead of kind of wallowing too much in that and getting too caught up in all of that, I just shifted my focus to kind of working with all sorts of other people, whether it meant like women-owned businesses, women of color, or just really anyone in the space that kind of needed services that I found that didn't really have access or weren't from necessarily the same community that I was initially working with. So I think shifting my focus, it was a little tough initially, I will admit, because I think I was so excited and had a lot of pride in working exclusively with South Asians and South Asian businesses. Honestly, practically speaking, it became one of those things that, okay, but I also want to have opportunities that I don't want to just shy away from because they're not South Asian. Because I kept getting inquiries that were like other communities of color, other people that still needed these offerings. And so I started to take more of those. And that's kind of where I'm at today, honestly. I'd say like a good percentage of my clientele, I think at least over 50 is still South Asian, but it's that percentage that was used to be like 5-6% is now more like 25-30% of people of my other clientele is non-South Asian. And I just find that works for me. I find that allows me to not be in my head too much about that scarcity mindset and about that fact that like, oh my gosh, there's so many other people now that are in the same space as me. I think it allows me to shun that feeling away because I still have kind of clients that are coming in elsewhere. And I'm not too focused on a niche that I find was kind of limiting me, honestly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to think about there. I feel like it's also like, it's great to hear that the space has grown, because I do think, yes, your pivot maybe wasn't the easiest when you first did it, but I think like to show that the space has grown, it is also encouraging that we're seeing South Asian people pursue those creative careers that many people probably wanted to do that couldn't because they went into STEM or something else, right? And even like myself, like getting into like leaning into my creative side, it's been so rewarding. So I'm excited for the people forging the path. Obviously, our message today is forge the path, but there's space for everyone because as you've shown, you can pivot your business, you can grow your business, you can expand, you can learn from other groups. But also I, as a consultant, feel like I only have so many hours in the day, right? Unless you have a team of 20 people, scarcity mindset isn't really a necessary thing. There's probably enough work for everyone to be really, really, full in their career. So let me ask you one last piece of advice or one last question. It's a piece of advice for somebody just starting out, a creative, maybe South Asian person just starting out, and they're maybe going through these same feelings that many people have gone through, right? Of like, hey, I'm embarking on this creative career. What do you think is a mindset shift that they can start to or maybe not a shift because maybe they haven't got there yet, but maybe just what's a mindset they can embrace to embark on this path and not have this sort of aura of everybody's my competition, right? Do you have any advice there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and I tell my clients this too, especially the ones that are afraid of that they're entering a space that's already crowded, is look inward, find what makes you unique. What's your USP? What makes you you? Like what makes working with you different than working with anyone else, whatever it is your offering is at its core. And honestly, focus on that because I also think the mindset shift should be, especially if there's a mindset shift that's necessary, but even if you can have this mindset from the start, is that someone else's success and the fact that the success and that there's more people that are popping up now that are successful in these spaces and the creative spaces that we come from honestly is a symbol that there's opportunity for everyone and that the success of other people is not that there's less for us and it's more of what is possible for everyone. That's what that mindset should be. It's that other people's success is just the key indication that, wow, there's so much opportunity that exists in this world. So focusing on yourself, focusing on what's your USP, whether it is the type of work you do, whether it is your style of work, it's your unique approach to the work you do. There's so many different things that make us unique. And especially in creative things, that's what's fun about this. It's nothing is the same. I can work with me, you can work with someone else. Their process might be completely different. The outcome might be completely different, but they're still valid and creative in their space. So there's no right or wrong with this creative world. So find a process that works for you. Find what is that thing that makes you unique. And I think really focus on that, really polish that. And really, if there's something to kind of promote, it's that. It's what makes you unique. It's not to try to emulate something that you're not or be someone you're not. It's find what you're really good at, hone in on that and capitalize on that. Because I think if you really do focus on the things that make you you and make you good at what you do, then naturally success will come to you and opportunities will come to you because you're putting the best foot forward. Versus I think if we focus too much on others or that scarcity mindset, all of these things that we've been talking about today, I think it just forces us to be in a space where become somewhere we're not. And then it just becomes a domino effect and it's just not good outcomes for anyone. So I think that would be my biggest advice is really find that USP, focus on that, and just make sure that whenever you do see other people's success, you understand that it's not a pot that's finite. Like there's infinite opportunity and someone else's success is just indication that our creative community for South Asians is growing and opportunities are everywhere.
Oh, I love that. That's such a good piece of advice. I think you said something really important there that I think we all need to remember, right? Is that uniqueness that you can only bring. Having a similar title to someone else doesn't make you the same as them. You always have something unique to offer. And so lean into that. I love that. That's such a wonderful point. And I feel like a great point to sort of close on today. So thank you so much. We'll be including Zenab's website in the show notes so you can reach out and ping her. And I'm really excited to sort of see all the future things that you're working on and also just wonderful to meet you and chat with you. So thank you again today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. See you at the next episode of South Asian Success. Thank you for listening to South Asian Success. If this episode resonated with you, we hope that you'll share it with a friend or someone else who could resonate with it as well. And if you love what we're doing and building, please do rate us on whatever podcast method you stream on. Any reviews will help us grow and improve this platform. And if you are interested in joining us or talking more about your journey, please be sure to reach out. Take care.